Hi, Gay DeRusso with the Majestic rider. So here today with Commander, and I'm going to show you an update. I taught him to canter, so we'll see if he's too tired. He did give a lesson for me today. I'm going to show you me trying to get him to saddle gait. He has his flat walk and his running walk down, and he's very good with all those. If you have a Tennessee walking horse, you know, some of these guys have very big strides. He has a big overstride, and some of them are a little bit more lanky like him. And you can shorten their stride up, not to like the size of a Rocky, but you can shorten the stride up and get a little bit more smoothness in the saddle if you don't like that motion. And if you don't like the flat walk and the running walk, well, you know, you can skip it and just go from the walk to the saddle gait. So as you see him walk, you'll see his back foot just kind of goes into his front hoof print, and then you're going to see him stretch over it a little bit more. The horses that are like this, because, you know, each walking horse is different, so some aren't as lanky or have as much overstride. They don't need as much contact when you ride them. They can balance and get underneath themselves a little bit more, but the ones that are bred more like this, they do need you to ride them with contact if you're trying to get the best gait when you're gaiting them. You don't have to when you're slow. And they just go so much better and you have less motion in the saddle versus if you're riding them like this. See how much more I'm moving? And then he's just kind of all over the place. So these horses are not bred to go on a loose rein like a Western pleasure horse. You can, but that usually makes them not pay attention as much, makes them a little bit more wobbly, makes them a little bit more trippy when they're horses like this. And they get distracted. They can do so many things at the same time. So they kind of space out. And so you get good things and bad things with horses. When they're calm, they can get a little spacey if they're not engaging and focusing on you, okay? But they're not spooky. But the spooky ones are thinking about everything else. And so they, although they might not be trippy and they're more sensitive, of course, will be more spooky. So everything has its good parts and its bad parts. So this is our flat walk, and if I speed him up a little bit, not bad, he thought he was supposed to canter, then we can go more towards our running walk. So when you're trying to get your saddle gait, which is like the next speed, and then the rack after that, you're trying to hold these guys together, because some of the horses, when they don't know how to do it in the beginning, when you speed them up, they'll pace, they'll trot, and they'll do all sorts of stuff. But if you've trained them and you know how to move their shoulders and hindquarters and body over, a lot of times you can just hold them, push them a little bit more, get more collection, and they'll smooth out. So with him, you'll see he moves funny in that one spot each time. So that means it's not your horse, it's the footing there, and it's very deep right there. So it's probably going to happen every time. And so what I'm going to do is kind of over-collect them for a minute and start going faster and try to get our saddle gait. So here we go. So we're going to engage him. He's not paying attention, so I just tapped him. So he's a little pacey. So I'm going to push his shoulders over and bend him to the right. He's still a little step pacey, so not good yet. Now he's pulling and going a little too fast. I want his head up a little bit more. Good boy. Whoa. So right there, he got 1 or 2 steps that were very good. What do? You want to stop? Reward your horse. Pet them. Don't smack them. They like petting. They're scratching. And let them know that was the right thing. This is how you get it through their mind what they're supposed to do. If I keep going, sure, could I get more steps? Sure could, but he might not be sure of it. Since I just started teaching it more to him, he can do it on the trail pretty easily, but in the arena, it's always harder. I want to make sure he understands, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to slowly speed him up. You'll see I have a fair amount of contact. I'm kind of holding him with my leg in my seat. Now I'm going to speed him up. Now he's kind of a little bit in his running walk. I'd like his head a little bit higher. So some of them, they learn to put their head down, and then they learn, well, if I pull down, I'll get away from the pressure. So when they do that, I just either pull up or slide the bit or do something. So again, your saddle gait won't have head shake. So if they're shaking their head, you know, you got to go a little bit past it. So I'm tapping him with my stick. Now his head a little bit higher. This is kind of hard to do in a circle, but we have 2 horses in here, and I don't want the camera following the other horse. So I didn't get it yet. This is the bad footing. Now, if you see me bouncing, it means he's either pacing or step pacing, because he doesn't foxtrot yet. Now, that's pretty good. Oh, so I made sure I went past the gate. Don't stop at the gate. They always want to go to the gate. Now, some of the horses, if you rest too long, they forget what they were doing. They forget what their guess was and what the right answer is going to be. So I rested them less than last time, and we'll see what happens. So that's pretty good. He sped right up into his running walk. I'm going to head up a little bit more. There we go. Now a little bend to separate the legs. Now the bad footing, so I'm holding them together. See me leaning back and touching them with my right spur. Let's head up a little bit more. Hard to do all this at the same time. This is pretty good. I'm going to get a little bit more bend. I'm bringing my leg back to push his hind quarter over. Bring his head up a little bit. You see me bouncing. Now I let him go just because he was sneezing. So in time, I'm going to change this bit. He was good in it before, but now he's bringing his head down too far. Now we're still pacing. He was good, and then got bad. So I got poles here, and I use the poles for cantering, but even if I get one canter step, we're going to say that's okay, because it'll get him out of the pace. So head's down too far, lean back, half halt, half halt. Right leg, we're pretty good. Going for more. Here I'm holding him more to smooth it out. Get his head back up. Now I'm going to stop. Good boy. Okay, so you see I went through a lot of pacing, step pacing, running walk to get a little bit of the saddle gait. And that's all you do in the beginning, is you get a little bit and you try to get a couple more steps and a couple more steps. Doing the saddle gait, it's much easier out on the trail. And it's much easier usually if you go straight. It's hard to do when it's bending and the footing's all inappropriate. Okay, so let's try it one more time this direction. So they're pretty good. My reins are a little long, but that's okay. Just head up a little bit. There we go. So in the end, I don't want to be holding and cranking on this horse, but I have to do that for him to learn right now. Let's see how shorter his stride is. So again, if you don't like that flat walk and the running walk, you can change it. But you got to ride with collection. So more pressure, more leg, engage their hind quarter. Every time it's bouncy, I half halt and I push him over, get his head back up. So it's not great, but it's much better than it was. Out on trail, he's quite smooth. It's just here in the arena. So I think that was very good. Well, good boy. So I'm going to give him a break, and then we're going to try the other direction. Now, depending on the horse, if I'm trying to teach him to canter and the saddle gait, a lot of times, like with him, I taught him the canter first, and then I do the saddle gait after that. You can do it either way. It's up to you. You just kind of see what works best for your horse and doesn't confuse it too much. Some of these walking horses, if you rest too long, they fall asleep. So we don't want to rest too long, do we? So you'll see him throwing his head a little bit, but again, he just gave a lesson for me, so I'm not surprised. He's had two different people on to ride him, so that can be confusing. So flat walk. More towards his running walk, and now we're going to go saddle gait. Now you'll see he's trying to get out of it different ways by putting his head down and stuff, and I'm like, no, and that's normal because he doesn't know. Now that's pretty good. Well, it's kind of between a running walk and a saddle gait, but I'm like, yeah, that was pretty good. You got to reward the try, even if it's not what you want. If it's going towards it at all, you got to let them know, hey, that's the right thing. Yeah, good job. Let's try it again. Okay, but if you don't reward it, how do they know what the right thing is? They don't understand yes. Now, a little bumpy, right? So separate the legs more by moving his shoulders over, bringing his hind quarter more towards the outside. And it's just 1 or 2 seconds of more separation will smooth out that gait. It depends on the horse. Each horse I do a little bit differently. This is quite good right here. Now it got a little bouncy. Good boy. Cool. Now you might be like, I like the head low. Why don't you want his head so low? I don't want it low because when he's doing it, he's leaning on the bit and he's getting his weight forward. And we don't care if his head's low, we don't care if it's up, as long as he's engaging himself, using his body correctly. But we got to, a lot of times, use the head to do that. So I would like his head more like this, more neutral, not down so far. The walk-in horses, a lot of them have big chests, and their chest is bigger than their hindquarter, and they can get a little heavy, so you don't want them any heavier than they were already built to be. You want to help them. So we're going to go faster, little bend, sit back, hold him a second, push his hindquarter over. I can feel what he's doing, so you got to have feel. If you can't feel it, you can't correct it. So you either got to take lessons, have a trainer who knows what to do and understands their gait, get it, you know, or take lessons and learn how yourself. So head's a little low, that's better. There we go. That's quite good. Well, so again, we went from pacing to gaiting within a couple of minutes just by me stopping and rewarding him. Okay, so let's try it again, and then after we do this again and get some good steps, then we're going to try the canter. So I will use the poles to teach them to canter, and then if they're pacing, I might also go over a pole. I never get mad if I go over the pole and the horse starts to canter if I taught them to canter over poles. But in time, as you go over the poles, they'll get lazier and they'll be like, oh, she doesn't want to canter anymore. I figured it out. So, but in the beginning, I don't mind because that's what I taught him. Okay, so he's got a little head shake. We're going to try and get a little bit less. You see that paint horse? He's doing a saddle gait. So you'll see the tail bounce when they're doing it. You might see a little head movement, but not that much. You'll see a shorter stride and more action in the knees. On the front legs, this is good. Very smooth, buddy. And you'll see more hawk action versus reaching under them. Cool. So we want to shorten that stride up when we do it. So that was good boy. So that's all we're doing for his saddle gait today. Okay? But again, if you don't ride well, you don't have good balance, it's very hard to help the horse get it. And the terrain out on the trail does help you to get it. That's why you're out there and you're like, oh my God, you're gaiting so well. And every time I go in the arena, he's horrible. Because the terrain is self-collecting your horse, getting it to engage itself, and it's doing the work for you. But you need to learn how to get it so you can get that gait anywhere, here, there, everywhere. Okay? So now we're going to try our canter. So in the beginning, we just did a couple of steps, and then we got more and more. He's still a little fast. Not bad, because I've been doing more trail work, because everybody just wants a trail horse, not an arena horse. So I'll use the pole. I'll probably be too close, but I'm going to use that pole to get the canter, and then we'll canter around. So I always give them cues. So when I go to gait, I just go through my flat walk, my running walk, and then I speed up to whatever gait I want. But when I want the canter, I try, if possible, to do it from the walk. And then I use a pole and ask them. The trotty ones, you can kind of trot into it, but that is bouncy. So in time, once they understand to canter, I also try to get it from a walk or a gait. Okay? On trail, this guy can gait and actually pick up the canter, but again, the hills are helping him. So here we go. We're going to turn. I might be too close to the camera. We'll just see. And what I'm going to do at the next pole is half halt and use my outside leg. Whoops. So I kind of messed it up. He did it at the first one, and I didn't go because I was talking. But I'm going to half halt, use my outside leg, and say the word canter. Canter. There we go. Now I got to drive him forward, because if I don't drive him forward, he gets slow. And then he gets a little bouncy. So he's got to go forward, get the correct footfall, which he has. He's not cross cantering. And then sometimes when they get bouncy, you go faster, not slower. Otherwise, you can canter step by step. But see, now he's better versus what he was a minute ago. Good boy. Walk. Now, our arena's all over the place, which I'm sure yours is too. So depending where you go over the pole and the terrain you hit right after the pole shows you what kind of canter you get. And right here is the worst footing. So when I hit that footing, the canter was okay, but it wasn't great. So let's try it over here and see how we do. Canter. So much better canter, smoother. I'm half halting leg, half halt leg, half halt leg. So it's pretty much at the same time. That was the bad footing. So you see, he kind of fell out of it and got a little pacey there. Walk. So that was quite good. So you quit when they're good, not when they're bad. So when he gets pacey, I push him more forward and drive him to try to get him back into the canter. If you can't do that and they fall out of it because you don't have enough leg or enough energy that they believe you to go for it and get the canter step again, then you walk, start again. Walk, start again. Get as many steps as you can. Use the poles. You'll see when I go to the right, I'm going to use these poles more, and because he doesn't canter as well to the right. So he only gets a couple steps here and there, and if my body can tolerate it, I'll show you. But he will cross canter to the right if he doesn't use the poles, and that's normal. So what I have to keep doing is every time he cross canters, walk and try to get the canter again and get him to switch on the correct lead. If you canter on the wrong lead, they think that's what they're supposed to do. Okay, so we're going to go over here. So I'll do the same thing when I go to canters, half halt, shift my weight to the outside. I dig with my left leg. I say the word canter, and I keep my left leg on them until they canter. If they don't canter, I keep my left leg on them, and I start tapping them with the stick, or really kind of getting after them. Oh, squirting. Okay. So we're going to start with this pole right here. So as I'm getting closer, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to half halt, shift my weight, canter. He's on the wrong lead. So we'll just try it again. So again, no breaks when they don't do it correctly. Wrong lead. Wrong lead. So I can feel it. Correct lead. Now he fell out of it, didn't he? So I'm trying to get it back. Now he might cross canter. See, I'm pumping and he's not cantering. This is what makes you feel sick. That's why I like the poles. So half cantering, half pacing. Yep, and I gave it a good try, didn't I? It made me sick. So now we just go back to the poles. That was horrible, buddy. Wrong lead. So better. Walk. So see how much those poles helped him? So what he's telling me is, to the right, Gaye, I'm still unbalanced. I need more help. I need more work on those poles. Maybe another month of those poles, and I'll get this. They do in time, especially if you're trail riding, you keep cantering on the left lead, which is what I do out there. Then that one gets stronger, and he's gotten quite good at that, but the right one's not so good. So he needs more work at that. Okay, so we're going to, couple more seconds, because he tends to fall asleep if he sits too long, and then he forgets what he was doing. He's not mean or anything. You just got to figure out your horse's intelligence level, their focus, and what they can emotionally handle. Because some can only do this once, or they can only do one pole, and then their brain's fried, and you're like, what? For a month, we do one pole. And maybe in 2 months, I can add another pole. So half halt, shift my weight, canter. See? Nothing. Nothing. Now, it's not like I didn't ask him. He just fell asleep. Now he's more awake. I'm kind of hitting him. Are you going to go to the bathroom? So I'm walking a little bit faster because I want to make sure he's awake. I don't want his head way down. Head down is only good when they're not pulling. So wrong lead. So we're going to try and use this other pole here, but it's not correctly spaced to canter. So you see, I came back to a walk, bend him. Good boy. Now, it wasn't as good as the first time, was it? No. And we have a random horse walking around back here. And, but it was good enough, and I feel he's getting tired. So we're going to quit with that, because you quit when they're good, don't quit when they're bad. And see things like this, horses walking by, horses lose focus. So if I tried to canter now, he's not going to do it. He's just going to be like, where's that horse going? What's he doing? So you got to try and do things where you can focus, not where there's a whole bunch of people, not where there's a whole bunch of distractions. And that's why the round pen can be a really good place to practice cantering, because you're enclosed and there's less distractions. Okay, hope that helps you with your saddle gait and getting your horse to canter for the horses that are more on the pacey side.